Howdy folks, Stock here with Last Best Tool, and I hope this is a fun one. What I'm doing is going to compare the tool company to a firearms company. So like, what firearms company does Snap-on represent? And then, go ahead and join in with your thoughts in the comments. I'll give you my idea. I'll also have a little pause so you can think about, what does that mean? You can pause the video if you want to try to guess what I'm thinking, but let's start out with Snap-on. What firearms company do I think Snap-on would represent? Glock. Now, you might be thinking, what? Glocks are affordable. Well, actually, no. The reason is, well, obviously, let's get it out of the way. Snap-on and Glock, they're both perfect. Perfection. Right? Right. But anyway, why? It's not expensive. It's expensive for what it is. I mean, if you were paying Snap-on prices for a car, you'd be all over it. Well, a Glock is just a piece of plastic and metal. When they first came out, my understanding, some of the history of Glock was that the marketing company said, you could easily sell these for $200 and make a profit, but that would look bad. So charge what everyone else is. So that's why Glocks are $500 and why it doesn't change all that much, because they're already, wildly overpriced for what they are. And I guess you could say now a lot of them are made in America too. So Snap-on, to me, is Glock. Plus there are lots of parts, there's service, it's globally recognized. You're going to have little trouble really getting out of it for not terribly far what you've got into it. So there's that. And because of the brand name, you have no trouble, trading it, selling it, moving around within the line. Well, what about Craftsman? Craftsman, to me, is, you're thinking? Colt. Colt firearms, big history. A lot of people just love it. They don't, even if they don't know much about it, they recognize it. But the Colt line might, like Craftsman, you might have people say, oh, are they still in business? Or where do you even get them? Or are they still made in America? There are all kinds of questions circulating around the company. Are they going to make certain tools? Are they not? There are different lines of their tools. There are different versions. And so Craftsman, to me, big historical following, potentially made in the USA or not. But then also you aren't sure of the nature of the company as far as the financial stability, things like that. So there is Craftsman. So what about Milwaukee? Now Milwaukee, to me, at first I thought, wow, that's going to be a tough one, and then it became obvious. Any ideas what Milwaukee would be as a firearms company? Okay, I think Sig. Why? Because it's probably a good tool, just because of the name, but it also makes everything. Even stuff that you think might be outside their wheelhouse. And it might be made in America, or it might not be made in America. You don't know based on the tool. But nobody's embarrassed about owning it. But just because it says Sig doesn't necessarily mean it's, super high quality. They have lines. They have, there are various points in their integration as far as performance and quality. You might get something for a couple $100 or $100 or under $100, with binoculars and red dots, but you also might spend $1,000. So you really have to know what you're getting into. And because they make everything, they have some duds, or they have some that just, people started using it, maybe the half-inch impact and ran into problems, so there's that. So Milwaukee, to me, is Sig, which leaves DeWalt. What is DeWalt? Well, think about it for a sec. That's about long enough. I'm going to say Remington. Remington, well, who owns it? Big conglomerate. What do they make? They make everything or nothing, depending on how you look at it. But there are some classics, like the table saw or the miter saw or the drills that they just are embedded within our consciousness, just like maybe the 870 or the 700. So there's that, but then they make everything else, and they have some duds, and they've got some good stuff, and they've got their name plastered on all kinds of different things. And because it's now owned by who knows who, you have to look at each individual thing. Sometimes a quality slip, sometimes it's who knows who made it, where it came from, and then warranty. There's that. How are they going to handle it? So DeWalt to me is Remington. All right, let's get these next three out of the way. What do you think icon would be? I'm waiting. Okay, in my mind, icon is going to be Springfield. Why? Well, partially because where are the ideas coming from? A lot of Springfields are actually from overseas, and those over on the East Coast, not the West Coast, but overseas, and then they're kind of refined here in America. They're not necessarily produced here. And their ideas, that maybe the intellectual property sometimes might be suspect in a couple of different ways. One in the branding, because Springfield Armory, the current one, is not the old one, the 1800s, 1700s one. But also that you might have seen some of the things, some of the pieces of that tool in other tools. And then suddenly here it is. So I think Springfield doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. Just means you might not be getting exactly what you think you're getting. So let's try Doyle. Now, by the way, this is that Doyle stripper that I did a video on, and some of you nicely and not so nicely pointed out I put the bolt in the wrong side, and I said I was going to drill it out. This is what it looks like. I did drill it out successfully. So what happened was, I had pulled or tried to screw the bolt in. Normally you would do it from the side that's smaller. You can see that's a lot smaller. Basically, if you put it, it would thread in here, and then anything that snaps off would pop out here. Well, I tried that, and actually I just kind of got lost in as I was playing with the tool, and I told you I couldn't, or I met a lot of resistance. So I tried it from the other side to see, and it actually did go in, and then I snipped it and then went, oh, whoops, oh well. And then thought, I've got some other project I'll work on, and it drilled out pretty easily, super soft. I mean, these 832 bolts are made of what 9 out of 10 people would probably say is metal. But anyway, so what is Doyle? Thought about Doyle because it's kind of, in this line of possible tools. I'm going to say Taurus. And why? Well, because there might be good ones, there might be classics, that certain versions of the product line that are really good, and then others that might be sketchy, might be close enough. People may, like with Taurus, they might like it because it comes in purple and green and pink and, whatever else. But it's also a fairly limited line. So they don't make a lot of, or a wide variety of things. They make a lot of variations. And Doyle, you get a good one, it's good. But if you don't get a good one, you kind of are like, well, that's the luck of the draw with this particular tool company. So that's my thought. Please, again, share your thoughts. Be nice. I'd rather have information than insults, but I think everybody knows where this one's going. I'll give you a millisecond to put it together. Pittsburgh, yeah, Hi-Point. Why? Well, because it might be good enough. It might work. It's not supposed to be high quality. It's not supposed to be expensive. And if it breaks or doesn't work as well, well, of course, because it's an inexpensive tool. And a lot of people love it. They're perfectly fine, perfectly happy with it. And then those that have almost any of these other brands are probably going to look down on it. So there's that. So share what you think. I could not come up with another mainline firearms company that I thought matched up better than Pittsburgh and Hi-Point. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it, but don't expect people to be wowed because you own one. How about Klein? What would Klein be? And this one took me a little while, and I started to kind of think about, there's history here, there's niche, there's, some tools are just the absolute high quality, gotta have it. Others are, you might take your chances. And I think this is Kimber. Kimber's got a history, it's got a name, people are happy with it, they're not embarrassed by the brand at all. But it also, they've had some duds. But in reality, they are really working to try and produce the best of their narrow line. I mean, there are all kinds of different Kimber tools, but if you look at actually the spread of the line, there are more variations on certain themes than there are unique tools. So I think that fits with Klein. They're also doing kind of an explosion in product diversity. So you're starting to see a lot more different things that you may not have expected from that particular tool company. And it gets to the point like where are they sourcing the parts, or where are these going to be assembled or warranted, etc. So there is a bit of confusion in that respect with both lines. But overall, outstanding, no hesitations. What about Mac tools? Here you go. Mac tools. What do you think? I'm waiting. Okay, this to me is Smith & Wesson. Smith & Wesson makes everything, and they've been around for a long time. But today you don't know exactly the quality level. It's probably good. I mean, but it also is from a brand that has had some ups and downs. And because of that, you might not know, you kind of have to handle the tool at the individual ground level, tool level, not necessarily any blanket statement about quality or performance, etc. It kind of depends, but you really are leaning on, giving them the benefit of the doubt that if it's got that name on it, it's probably pretty good. And there's a history there, so you've got, FUDs that are going to say, oh, they're outstanding tools, they're the best. And they're probably right at that time. They were great. Maybe people are caught on... they certainly don't make a big brand on here. Maybe I'll color it in. But anyway, they don't necessarily make a big advertising presence. They just have this long-standing reputation of being good. And they're riding on that, I think. Both companies. You let me know what you think. All right, and then last, what would PB Swiss be? Had to have a fun one with this. PB Swiss, kind of a niche thing, more expensive in America. No hesitation whatsoever with any of their tools. Proud to own them. Definitely something that not everyone will recognize. And in this case, I'm going to say Noveske. Why? Well, Noveske makes, they offer, if they're available, a handful of different variations on a couple of themes. And there are lots of things they do not make. PB Swiss makes drivers and scrapers, basically fastener tools, some hammers. There's a lot of stuff they don't make, or at least I've never seen in America. But you'd be proud to own it. Gorgeous finish work, excellent just all the way around, serialized everything. Just, that if you called the company to get help, you're going to probably get somebody who is going to know that tool in and out, and you'll get first-class service. But it's also probably expensive, at least in America, and it might be out of reach. And then when people have it, they don't use it because they don't want to ruin it or damage it or anything. But overall, PB Swiss, and every component of it, not just the overall tool, but each individual piece is probably made in-house and also of equal quality. They're not outsourcing, all the internals. So anyway, PB Swiss to me is Noveske. So where can I go with this? Well, I've got a few others. I stumbled on Gear Wrench. I didn't know where is Gear Wrench today? What would it be close to? At first I was thinking kind of Remington, but then, not only was that one taken, but also, is it? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. What would Gear Wrench be? And while we're there, there's some of these other brands. Koken. Koken was actually one that got me thinking about Noveske, but I think it's a different line. It's a different philosophy. But what firearm company would that be? What about Vessel? I was thinking Vessel might be Browning, but you let me know what you're thinking. Because Browning didn't show up in this, but it's high-end but affordable. A lot of Brownings are made in Japan. we need a little depth in history, name. I don't know. Let me think. Let me know. Knipex. Didn't want to touch this one. I have no idea where that one would fit in. I can come up with some ideas, some thoughts on it, but I'm a little bit lost on that one. So help me out. Weehaw. Where would that be? Somewhere in between these two, maybe, or on its own, a niche thing, or is it mainstream? Let me know. And then finally, some brands like Fluke here, what would that be? Really narrow, really high quality in some areas, but other people think some of their hand tools are not. So are there slips in the line somewhere, stuff maybe they shouldn't do, or are they just outsourcing it, certain things with their name? So let me know what company you think, what firearms company would be Fluke. I don't know. Lost in that one. I'll probably revisit this. Have fun in the comments. Be nice. I'm not trying to insult any companies, but like everything, there are ones we really favor, and some we may have a bad experience with. So there's that. So let me know. And with that, Doc out.